Hello, welcome to EaseDrop. I appreciate everyone tuning in to join me. EaseDrop, a ladies' night for conversation about life, love, relationship, career, personal development. Again, thank you for joining us for thought provoking conversations. Today, our topic is being good enough, how we value ourselves. Right now, joining me is Miss Megan. You want to say hello, Megan?
Hello.
And I think Christina's going to join us shortly. And she'll be calling in because she's getting out from work. She's a pretty busy lady, but she's going to try her best, I believe, to join us. So I want to start off by reading to you the lyrics from a song by Jasmine Sullivan. It's called Girl Like Me. Um, I'm going to need these. Okay, so it goes. It's a little hurtful that I just can't be confident in being with one person, that I gotta look over my shoulder. Looking at these girls on Instagram, and it's hard sometimes because I don't have that they have. And sex has become my superpower. It's like sex is where I'm finding my worth because that's one thing I know. I can keep you coming back to. And at the end of the day, even if you don't want me, I know you're going to want that. In one way, it's empowering, and in another way, it's sad. I feel moments of sadness knowing that just me alone, who I am, is not enough. So, anyway, I heard that
That
and I
was
thought,
good.
wow, that's kind of powerful. Really powerful, I think, anyway. So, Megan, I think the part that hit me was the part about how her worth is tied up into sex. And I'm thinking, just really surprised that she said that she actually put that out there. Because I think it's like that for a lot of people. There are some very, very pretty girls that I think get too caught up in not feeling good enough that they accept less than. And they sometimes feel that sex is all they have to offer. Um, what are you thinking? What did you think when you heard the song or read the lyrics?
The lyrics truly surprised me. She was so honest and blunt with every single word. So she was really speaking like from experience or maybe just from what she see. So you don't find artists or singers that will speak information, and that was really good because some only think they are worth. I mean, have to give is sex.
Right.
So
You
I
know
don't
what though?
believe that you sleep with someone to keep them.
Right. But if I feel or if I believe me, who I am, just like she was saying, who I am as a person, if I feel like I am not good enough and sex and looking a certain way, having a certain job, doing certain things gets your attention and it keeps you coming back, then I think that's what people do. The question would be, how did we get to that point? How did we get to the point to where who we are as women, who we are as individuals, is not good enough? And I guess from our point of view, because just because we feel we're not good enough does not mean we are not good enough. That's our perception. But how do we get there? Because I have some thoughts about how we got to that point. But what do you think? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
You want me to tell? Do you want me to
Well,
tell
if
my
you have
thought
any thoughts, if not,
why?
how we yeah, how did we get to the
Okay.
point to where yeah, sex is, so wrapped up into who we are or our value anyway.
I from how I feel, I believe it could come from the things that we see, the things that they play on the radio, the videos, rappers and singers have out. I mean, it's good for this generation, but like in my generation, we wasn't really seeing that type of um, action on TV or have access to watching, women half naked or men. It's just like they don't have any type of kids now or the the older people. So it's like we have been I feel like the radio and everything just let everything go now. Nobody that's showing me that they want to, words or block out certain words that provoke sexual activity. So what do you think?
Yeah, so I think, well, even in the song she mentioned Instagram, right? The ladies, the girls that she see on Instagram. Um, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think when you start talking about feeling not good enough, I think it starts as early as the messages that we receive as children. So when there was the thing about children are to be seen and not heard. So what are you saying to me? My voice doesn't matter. I don't have a voice. I don't have an opinion. Who you know um, Hello, Miss Edens. Um, yeah, so I think it starts there. And then when you're young and things happen to you, whether you're abused, molested, raped, when some of those things happen to you, what you learn is that I have something of value that someone took from me, or that's the reason I got their attention. So I think we start to get the wrong message around who we are and what's important early on. And unfortunately, I think that there's a great number of women who have been victims of molestation or rape even at an early age. Again, I think they get the message from there. I often tell people when they want to talk about these little fast ass girls, you need to go somewhere and sit down. And I think you should be asking, who hurt you? Who touched you? Instead, we want to judge them. And, they're just trying to find some love, some attention, I think, most of the time. So I think it's not just about what we see on TV. I think what we see on TV does not help. I think it perpetuates what they're already feeling. So they're already feeling like they have to have something to offer to be accepted, to be loved. And then we get the stuff on TV that reiterates that.
Correct.
And okay.
Right. So a little touch on what you were saying about the fast tail girls.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of them just wanting to know like who touched them, I mean, it does matter who touched them, but you want to get to the realization of why this child is acting this way. Maybe you need to just have an open door to be able to have your kid to open up and speak with you and be able to express themselves to the parent. Sometimes kids as young age, like when you're young, sometimes parents put a fear inside of you. So should do I tell them, or am I gonna get in trouble for telling what happened? So it's just like the kid don't really know which way to go.
Right. So internalizing a lot of stuff and deciding that they're going to handle it on their own. And I think a lot of times we don't realize that things that happen to us impacts who we are today. And I think um, feeling not good enough leads us to even sabotage good relationships. You know what I mean? So it's that idea that I'm not good enough to be with a certain kind of person. So then we choose persons who are going to mistreat us, who don't have time for us. We may even choose people who are not available, maybe because they're married, maybe because they are who they are. And I heard something, um, I don't know if I read it or if I heard it somewhere. They said, you will never be good enough for a man who does not know that he is good enough. So, yeah, Miss Eden says over
That's true.
sexualized, too young. Exactly, Miss Eden. That's exactly what I was trying to say. They're introduced either because of something somebody said to them, something somebody did to them. Um, kids don't just pop out knowing about sex. We as adults contribute to that somehow. And then, as Megan was saying, they can't always or don't always have the voice to be able to say, this happened to me and I need some help. And that goes on with them, I think, that not feeling too much information too young. Yep. Not feeling good enough. Um, and and I think when you start talking about sex, it becomes a physical kind of thing too. Now we have issues of body image. I think it all ties. I don't think those are sex is an issue, then body issue is a issue, body image. I think it all goes together. So I don't know if you ever watched Empire, but they had a scene, huh? You can. I know you're having problems with your mic, so you can just jump in anytime. Um, but Empire, they had a love scene, and I cannot remember the young lady's name, but she played Precious on. Yeah, she played Precious in the movie Precious. So anyway, they had a love scene
Right.
with her, and I was so hurt at all the people that complained and said, "Ooh, that's nasty. How can you show that?" Because they had a love scene with this heavy lady, and it was just, I think, perpetuates the idea that our body image um, is a source of a sore spot, because in this society it's still about the body, even though we have plus size models now. um I mean, look at Queen Latifah. She's not the smallest thing. She's not a very large woman, but she's not that petite size 2, 3, 1 that we were used to. So I think a- advertisers, marketing strategies, I think they're trying to reach out and change how we view our bodies, how we see ourselves, trying to accept all sizes, all shapes and sizes. Even Weight Watchers, I think, at one point moved to talking about your healthy weight or ideal weight or something like that. But again,
Even
just go ahead and
even some women think now, all right, I'm gonna go. Some that they have to go get a butt plan or go get their breasts done. What happened with you feeling good yourself for what you know got you? Saying with the way, but you should be thankful for and share things in different ways. You don't have to look like everyone.
right. So I'm just not sure how we got to the point to where well, I guess I am sure. I know how we got to the body image point. And I think it's harder for people to accept that, their size, because of the messages they were given when they were younger, just that whole sense of not feeling good enough. And I think the ideal of not feeling good enough, again, came from messages we were given. But at what point, how do we get to a point to where we feel good enough? And I don't know if you have to first determine where that started, or can we just start from now and say, you know what? I'm going to decide what the standard is. I'm going to set the standard for myself. I'm not going to allow somebody on Instagram to set that standard for me. I am not going to allow what I see on TV to set that standard for me. So Megan is saying, right. Megan, I don't know if you could type in the chat. That would be good. Then everybody else can see it. Miss Eden says, "Yep, my body is now in style." LOL. Right. We are all beautiful, and I am really happy that people are being more accepting of different shapes. And Megan says, "Too much media." And I'm just gonna tell you, my birthday was Friday. I turned 52. And I don't know what happened, but I woke up that morning and I said, you know what? I am so sick and tired of worrying about my weight going up and down. I am just going to be me. I'm going to eat. I'm just going to accept this body and I'm going to keep it moving, because I don't know how much longer I have here. And why did it matter so much? Even at my age, why did my size matter so much? Other than I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy. So to that point, yes, I need to manage my weight. I need to be healthy. But for any other reason, doesn't matter because I can live this life and be enough. I know. Okay, Miss Eden's 56. Um, so I can live this life and just be enough. Again, I think growing up, things that were said to me, some messages that I received, some things that actually happened to me, left me feeling not good enough. A friend asked me one time, he was like, Evelyn, why are you always picking these I can't remember what he called them, but these horrible guys, basically. And I don't know. What I do know is that I met this guy, and oh my God, he was just so great. He was so thoughtful, respectful. He was respected by other people. He was smart, athletic. He was um, ended up being a pro athlete, and all I can remember thinking was, he's too good for me. And that's what I kept thinking. He was too good for me. That made absolutely no sense, but that's how I felt. He's too good for me. And again, the messages that I received coming up had me feeling that I wasn't good enough. I mentioned before, when you're experiencing someone, whether it's a parent, another adult, or I guess could be siblings, friends, whoever, and they tend to be hypercritical, then that can be really hard because that means they tend to see what you don't do right before they tend to see what you do wrong before they see what you do right. And when you keep getting that message over and over and over again, it becomes really hard. And yes, Miss Eden, with that relationship, or what could have been a really good relationship with a really good man, I sabotaged. I'm not going to tell you how I sabotaged. I'm not going to tell you how I sabotaged, but I definitely sabotaged that relationship. And of course, it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I even realized what was going on, why I thought he was too good for me, and why I did the things I did. Because I was like, why did I do that? Why did I make those decisions? And again, it was just because I didn't feel good enough. It had nothing to do with him. I just did not feel good enough. So I sabotaged. So Megan, again, you can just
So,
jump in because yeah.
to you, what now? What click make you feel good enough?
You know what? It was a process. You know, finding value in not just, so I think part of it was how I valued myself for a long time was based on what others valued in me, what they saw. And it's great that others can see good things in you, but if you don't see those same things, then it doesn't matter. So what ended up happening was, um, so they said I was smart. They said I was pretty. I know they had high expectations for me to go to school and, to be successful. And for a long time, I felt like I'm
So
not
did you live
smart.
up to those standards?
Yeah. So what happened was, to me, I was faking it. Like, I'm not really smart. They don't know it, so I'm gonna work really hard to make good grades. And what ended up happening was just trying to be an overachiever, um, trying to
Yes.
do everything right, trying to be perfect. And all I was doing was trying to camouflage, trying to hide the fact that I didn't feel good enough. And I was hiding that by saying, don't look at me, look at my grades, look at what I've accomplished, look at where I'm going to school, look at all these other
Oh,
things. Don't look at me. Because if you look too closely at
right.
me,
You didn't want
then you'll
attention.
see, right, then you'll see I'm really a failure. You'll see I'm really not as smart as you think I am. You'll see I am not good
No,
enough.
that was,
And
but what made you feel those type of words yourself at that young age or during those times when you had to feel that way?
yeah, just things that people would say to me. So, when you're growing
Oh,
up and
and
you're playing, you say something to somebody and you're playing, right? But the person on the receiving end of that,
right.
yeah, may not take that as playing. They
Didn't
may
think it was
take that
funny.
very, yeah. I didn't think it was funny, and I had to think about that if I'm saying something and what I'm saying
And
you
did
think
you
is
laugh with
stupid,
them?
I'm sure. And I noticed, um there was a young lady that played ball. I'm not gonna say who she played ball with, but I noticed that the they teased her a lot and she always laughed. But the funny thing is, I don't know if it's because of what I do. I saw the pain in her laughter. And so I pulled her to the side one day and I said, what they're saying to you, what they're doing is not okay. And I know you're not okay with it. So don't act like it's okay. So, just try to have a conversation with her, because at some point, I don't know if,
What made that? So my question is, what made you be able to have that ability to be able to find someone else's hurt or someone else's uncomfort, but you couldn't find it in yourself? So
well,
are you
I
just
was a
a
woman.
complete?
I was a grown woman by the time I had the conversation with her. Yeah. So when I had
Oh,
the young lady I had the conversation with, yeah, she was the age of one of my girls by the time, yeah. Miss Eden said, I get more sideways glances from family about my weight, but I like myself so much I ignore it. So yeah, and I can see that because I have a family member that every time he sees me, he comments on my weight. Now, even when I lost weight, he didn't have anything to say. He didn't have anything to say when I lost weight. But anytime I looked like I had gained weight, he definitely had something to say. And I don't understand. Of course, in my head, it has something to do with him not feeling good enough in some area that he needs to point that out for somebody else. So Miss
and
Jones said,
tease you, right?
yeah.
Just like you said, just like you said, recently. Oh, man, you took the words out of my mouth. But go ahead. I'll try to figure it out. What I'm saying. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to read what Miss Jones wrote. Miss Jones says, nobody teaches us to see our own value, especially as women. It's hard to know where it is because we feel so good when we are taking care of others. And it does feel good to take care of others. And that was one other thing I wanted to talk about, the roles we play. And so often we try to be good enough in those roles because that's where we find our value as mothers, as wives, girlfriends, friends, aunties. Um, a lot of times we find our value. And unfortunately for some kids, and I think this is how some kids begin to feel not good enough, is when their parents try to find their value in parenting. That makes sense. So some parents feel validated about their worth, about their role as a caretaker or as a parent by their child's success. So if my child is doing good, then look at me. I have something to do with that. And if their child isn't doing so good, they get really upset and angry because their value was wrapped up in how well that child was doing. And that is just not fair at all to that child. And I think that's the making of another person who's going to grow up feeling not good enough. So, but validation is important. So, sometimes we say, I don't need anybody to validate me. But we do. We do need some validation. And how do we, as women, begin to, um, learn our value? I think sometimes it's getting away from those people that don't know your value. So if you're around someone and being around that person doesn't feel so good, and you're in around that person or in a situation, then I think it makes it even harder for us to see our value. I think for me, going away to school and being and not knowing anybody felt like a new start for me. Of course, I took me with me. I took what I believed about me with me, but I was able to take a step back because nobody wanted me. And at some point, I decided I got to decide who I wanted to be. And again, it was a journey. It was a process. It's not, I didn't just say, this is who I want to be, and I became that person, because I had, 18 years of me, 19 years of me that I had to deal with. All those beliefs about myself I had I had taken with me. So how do we see our own value? I think that's a good question. We don't have many people chatting, but that is a real good question. How do we see our own value? And I think it's in recognizing our accomplishments unconditionally. You know, accepting that I can make mistakes and I'm okay with that. I think recognizing that is important too. Megan, were you trying to say something? I heard some.
Also, seeing, yes, um, I feel that when you see your own value, you have to take a step from the crowd, because we tend to listen to what so many other people tell us versus trying to understand and see what we see in ourselves. So sometimes, even in relationships, or sometimes you don't have that time to take for yourself because you have so many things to do. So, but like I said, I'll share a little experience. Like, I've been in so many relationships, and I'm only like 29. That, I mean, I thought I was doing the right thing or trying to find love. I had to actually, now that I'm 30 this year, I had to take a step back from the relationships, from some of the abusive down talk, or some of the, just the negativity, to be see what I can see in myself. Because,
Right.
like, I was so distracted at a lot of times, because listening to what this person says, listening to what this person says, I'm not even getting a chance to listen to what I say or what I have to think or of me.
Right. So you don't get to own your own opinions, own your own beliefs. And I think that's basically what it comes down to, opinions and beliefs and perceptions. So again, I think when you step back and you take a look at what feels good to you, what feels right to you, if nobody's looking, if you didn't have all the voices and opinions of everybody else, what are you left with? If you can step back and quieten the inner negative inner talk, because you also have to deal with that, because things that people say to you from childhood on up, they're in there, and sometimes you can hear it. You're not good enough. You can't do this, or you won't do that. And if you can quieten some of those voices and dismiss those, then you can start to tell yourself a new story. You can tell yourself a new story. You can write.
and see the value of yourself,
I didn't
to
hear you.
value in yourself, to see what you can accomplish, see the things that you think of to do on your own without someone
Right,
having to tell you. More decisions and have more your own, you value your choice. You
right,
value how you want to spend your money. You value how much negativity you're going to listen to on the conversation. So you start to realize a lot of things when you get in a place. Sometimes it's good to be alone. Some people can't be alone. You
right,
have to know how to be alone.
right. So, just it, Christina, just called in. Hey, Christina, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No, I cannot hear you.
I can hear you barely.
Okay, try it again.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes.
Okay.
So we were talking, of course, about being good enough, and Miss Jones says, "How do we see our own value?" And I thought that was a really good question. So we were talking a little bit about, how do we begin to see our own value? So Megan was talking a little bit about stepping back, being by yourself, and I was talking about quietening the voices in your head from all the messages that maybe you've gotten over the years, so you can start to form your own opinion and belief about what the standard is, what's acceptable for and to you.
Yeah, I think you see your own value based on your personal journey and your growth. And I think we learn each and every day our value, and it's through different avenues. It could be through spiritual faith. It could be through your job at work. You begin to learn your skills and what you're good at. And so then you say, okay, well, this is what I'm good at, and I value myself for that. So I think the more we discover about ourselves, we take that and we gain that courage and that understanding of who we are as a self, and it brings a certain confidence and it builds us up, our esteem and all.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we were kind of talking along those same lines, but like you were saying, even in your job, in little things you do, and even if it's not for the purpose of finding your value, sometimes you do find your value, just like Christina saying, in your journey, if you pay attention. And as Megan was saying too, in that journey, sometimes you got to move some people to the side. You got to get rid of some people so that you can see your value. Because sometimes those people are blocking your ability to see. Miss Jones said when Oprah Winfrey and Iyanla made up before Oprah launched her own network, Iyanla told that she didn't think Oprah wanted her. Oprah said she didn't understand how she could come to that conclusion. Then Iyanla spoke these words: you, I thought you wanted the work. I didn't believe you wanted me." That wanting to be valued without having to work for it is real. Yeah. And again, I think value comes along this journey. And I kind of remember the little situation with Oprah and Iyanla. I think it was that Iyanla was wanting to move faster than Oprah thought she needed to. Um, but again, sometimes people are looking out for our best interests and for what's, you know, especially if they've been along that journey. If it's something they've done before and they're giving you the feedback, it may be good for you. Here's the other thing. I was thinking about how we know sometimes that we don't feel good enough. And I think sometimes that's about like when you can't accept feedback. When you not just can't accept feedback, when you can't accept a compliment. When somebody says, "Oh, that dress looks so good on you. Oh, this whole thing. Oh, I like your hair like that. Oh, yeah, I got to take this day." We're struggling with that piece. So it's not. I think in the beginning, not being or feeling good enough is about. You're good, Miss Jones.
Common emotions.
Huh? I'm
I
sorry,
was gonna
Megan.
ask this question. Common emotions women don't handle well. So, what do you think some of the common emotions women doesn't handle well?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about that, last week. And inadequacy and not feeling good enough were two of the big ones that they said women don't handle well. I think I think putting that in perspective, my question would be like in what situations or around what people and what things cause us to feel not good enough or inadequate. I wonder if there's a common theme, and is it mostly in intimate relationships, or is it relationships in general where we often don't feel good enough or we feel inadequate? Christine, what do you think?
I think it's all around. I think to put it in other terms, women don't like being at fault. And when we feel like we're being blamed for something or we feel like we didn't do something right, you know how men say women always think they're right. They always think they're right. They can't be wrong. And I think that is something to look at. Like, where does that come from? Like, why do we always have to be right? Why can't we be this? Or have society put so much on us so we feel like we can't be at fault?
Well, you know what? Kind of what we were talking about earlier, and I think Miss Eden's kind of referring to that. We were talking about like how we got messages early on about who we are and what's acceptable, and Miss Jones also talked about how it's difficult for women in general to find their value. So, and I'm going to take it all the way back to, for a long time, women did not have voices. We were not heard. And so we couldn't be right because we didn't have a say. We were property. We were owned by our husbands to the point to where they had the right to beat us. It was what the rule of thumb. If the stick is not wider than the diameter of your thumb, then you can beat your wife with it, something like that.
I
Women were,
believe I believe that came from the money. Men had to work and bring home the money. So that's when they felt they had the control.
well, and I guess they did because to have money, you had to have ownership. You had to own something, and women weren't allowed to own anything. Women couldn't own property, So again, and that's another thing. I think so much of feeling good enough is tied to material things. Um, what we can buy, what we have, and I think sometimes we buy expensive things to cover up the fact that we don't feel good enough. Okay, because so often, we look at people we look at people that have money, um, and they look happy. They're going places, they're doing things, they have a nice ride. We look at them, they have money to afford that. They have money to be able to do those things. So, and then men, because they had ownership, because they had money, they had to say, they made the rules, and all of that. And I think um, as women, we're still trying to overcome some of that. I mean, just look, we're still fighting for equal pay after all this time. So I think as women, we're still fighting and trying to get people to accept that we are valuable, and I really think we're moving in that direction. I'm sorry, Megan.
I agree that we are moving into that direction. At my job, I am starting to see more women get a lot of more opportunity, and I'm happy to see that. That gives us a chance. I feel like now today, women, we, but we do not know it all, but we do have a lot of smart. We do make a lot of smart decisions. I'm not saying that, the opposite. It's just that I think women make more time out to think about do versus men. I don't think they really give it any too much of a thought sometimes of what.
Yeah. And I don't know. This is just me talking, but I think there was at some point some value that men were just giving off the jump, and we were disvalued to a large extent. It was like our value was to be able to birth kids. That was our value for a long time. And it made me just think about Bridgerton. I don't know how many people have watched it, but the whole thing was about um, them trying to find a husband so they can give them an heir. And then we look at the Duke who had the money, but he never got that unconditional acceptance or love from his father, so he wasn't feeling good enough. And his wife had to try to explain to him, look, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. And I think we have to remember that sometimes as women. But what does it look like to be a perfect woman when you think about our journey and where we've come from? It's no longer that you have to be thin, you have to be pretty, and don't get me started on the light skin, dark skin stuff when we start talking about the black community, because that skin color thing has caused a lot of people to feel not good enough. Um, so
I think the most
go ahead.
I think the most important part of the journey is getting to the point to where you realize that nobody is more valuable than you, and that your say, their say is nobody else's say is better than yours. They think what they think for the reasons that they think it because of what have brought them to where they are. And I think that you have to realize that you have to trust in yourself enough to make your own decisions and say, I'm just thinking body image right now, so this is my example. So, like I have a friend who has gotten plastic surgery. She got a little work done. She looks good. She looks so good, but guess what? She wants more work done because what happened the first time wasn't good enough. So you have to be able to know and trust and believe that what social media says, the Instagram models, just because somebody else is saying this is the way, this big butt looks good, this is that, that doesn't mean anything because once you get there, you're only going to find out for yourself what the answer is, and so are they. Just because you follow what somebody else is saying, that guess is just as good as yours. It doesn't matter how confidently they speak it. It doesn't matter how confidently they give it to you or the facts they use to back up with it. I feel like you have to get to a point where you trust your judgment, you trust your intuition, you dig in spiritually, and you figure out, what it is that you want, because ultimately this is your life, this is your journey. Nobody else is going to live it. Nobody else can feel it and experience it in the way that you do. So to hold value in such a person that their say is better than yours, or what they like is better than what you like, better than what you have, it is you get to a point in your journey where you realize that's craziness. That's craziness because, like you said in Bridgerton, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but like you said in Bridgerton, he also had his own flaws, and he's going to speak. It's going to be certain things that he's not going to speak well into because he also has wounds and hurts and pains, and there's some things that he's not going to see past, just like there's certain things that I'm not going to see past, or that his wife or future wife or potential wife is not going to see past. So it's important to not hold people on such a high pedestal that you give them to say so. Like she held Oprah on a high pedestal and thinking that she wasn't good enough because somebody else was going to say no to her. But that doesn't stop your opportunity. That doesn't stop your growth. That doesn't stop your wants and your needs, and that doesn't stop them from coming into a manifestation.
Right. But and I think it just goes back to I keep thinking about I'm sorry, Megan, you're chatting in the private chat. I can only see it. So if you can type into the regular chat, that would be great. But I think
I've tried to type
so.
into the regular chat. It doesn't work. I have to try to figure it out next week or then two or something. But I just wanted
Okay.
to chime in and say, don't judge a book by its cover. Read it first. Read it. So just like I say, everything just from the outside. You don't just. Normally people just judge from what they see from the outside versus getting to know someone from the inside. I think that plays a very important part.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? You're talking about judging a book from its cover, not judging a book by its cover, but the sad part is we do that to ourselves as women. We judge who we are and our value based on our cover, based on our body. Christina is talking about a friend who had the work done. You know what? If you want to enhance your beauty, you go for it. But make sure that what's on the inside is already good enough for you before you try to make the outside good enough. Because I think too often we're trying to take care of our bodies to look a certain way to match what we see on social media, hoping it's going to make us feel better inside. That's not going to do it. I've known a couple of people, they get the surgery to lose weight and then they gain it back. Why? Because changing the outside is not going to fix that you do not feel good enough on the inside. It just doesn't work like that. We have to make changes from the inside.
Just like having all that money, and you see these people don't really know if they're truly happy. Just because you see them smiling, you don't know what's hidden behind smile.
Right. Right. Because there are so many people that's smiling and then they are not happy. They are not happy. And people smile long enough to take that picture, post it on social media, and then they're back in the bed crying and just as unhappy as they can be. You never know. But you're letting the people on social media set these standards for you, create what's valuable, and you're adopting that. And again, I think what you both have been saying is we got to take a step back and get to know ourselves, quieten the noise that we hear from everybody else. Stop looking at some of the stuff on social media and decide for yourself what makes you good enough.
I do want to add, though, I understand what y'all saying about don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make a full judgment of the book by its cover, but your outside appearance do matter. That I just do want to clear that up because it can say something about the inside or what's going on with you for that day, or it can kind of give off. It may not give you the full story, but it do give off something about you.
Well, and I don't know if you're talking about how you dress yourself up or if you're talking about the body itself. Because whether I'm 200 pounds, 100 pounds, or 300 pounds, at some point I have to love and accept myself and value what I have to offer, regardless of how I look.
Yeah, you got to work with what you got. So
and someone might love where you're.
Some people that we all know that is when you really step back and look at them, you like that person really ain't that attractive. Like they're really not that beautiful. Like they're not that cute in my eyes, but they're so attractive and they're so beautiful. And you didn't even see
they're only cute in your eyes because
their inside shines so brighter. Their inside is so pure, and they give you a certain vibe or a certain feeling about them that you don't even really notice how they really look. And then you're like, you know what? Because it's like, if I saw them on a like dating site or something, I probably would never talk to them. Like, let's say if it was a guy, like I probably would never talk to them. But like I'm glad I met them in person because I really got to know. Had I judged them by just their looks or by their profile picture, I probably wouldn't have thought they were all that. That's why it's important not to just because you don't know what you're missing out on.
So you know what?
But the parents does say something because if you just don't give a crap about yourself, then that's gonna show.
Right.
Like if you really don't care, but if you dress up, like let's say you have a day off and you just chilling around the house. Like if you dress it up or if you dress it down, it's telling me what kind of mood you're in for that day. That's just kind of like black women with their hairstyles. We, based on how we feel, I wear wigs. I love my wigs.
Right.
So that's what I do. But it depends on how I feel. If I'm feeling fly, feeling sexy, I might go with that. Or I might go for a stay-at-home mom type of look. Hair back in the ponytail, but I still kiss.
Right. But I guess we're thinking more about, just feeling good enough from the inside. And of course, how you feel about yourself on the inside is going to manifest itself somehow on the outside. It's just that sometimes it's fake, So when I overdo it with the clothes and the hair and the nails, and I'm not saying doing that stuff just to enhance my look, but when that stuff becomes who I am, that's different. And Miss Jones and Miss Eden's having a conversation in the chat, and they're talking about how important. Well, Miss Jones started talking about the affirmation, and it passed. So I don't remember what was it. You is kind. You is smart. What was the other one? You is
smart. It was important.
Yeah. And so Miss Jones was talking about just how important those affirmations are when you are young, right? But unfortunately, too many of us do not get that positive feedback when we are young. We don't get those affirmations when we are young. We get the corrections, and so often we get the corrections, but we don't get the praise. So as you get older, those affirmations become even more important when you are older, to meditate on things that are good in your life, to meditate on those things that you are grateful for, to meditate on those things that you've done right, to meditate on what you've accomplished. And it doesn't have to be any big accomplishment either. It could just be something small.
And don't just meditate, but be mindful. Like throughout the day, be mindful of your thoughts. What are you thinking? Just pay attention to how you see things.
Right.
And then if you need some adjustment, say, why am I feeling like this about myself, and go deeper on that.
Yeah. But you know what? And I was just to comment, I think I'm going to the left a little bit from what you were saying, but in a way, I think it still applies. It's like sometimes I see people and they're, on Facebook, and they may be somebody I went to school with, and they've accomplished some things. Maybe they have a business, they've written a book, they've done some things, right? Especially when they own a business and they got all these people working for them. And I'm like, dang, that little thing comes just for a moment where I feel like I should be doing that. That should be me. But you know what? The truth is, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be responsible for all the stuff that comes with running a business. I see value in having a business, right? But it's not me. It does not fit who I am. That is not something I want to do. So, and I think we said this last time.
You have to know who you are.
Yes, you have to know yourself. And sometimes that takes time. What was that, Megan?
Because I was just saying that you have to know yourself. You have to know who you are. You have to sometimes reflect on some things that you did accomplish through up, and add that to your success now. And you have to also sometimes look back at the things that you have accomplished, not to compare yourself to anyone, just to look back and say, did that, or yo, hey, it's so important to uplift yourself. You do not have to always look for someone to do a good job. You have to know that what you do, that whatever you do, give it your all.
Right.
So
And you
that's what builds you up inside. When you can look at something and not have to look back, or not have to look and see if someone saw that, you saw what you did. You know what you did.
right,
You know what you can
right.
do. So only
Yeah.
you can control how you feel about yourself. If you only take the time out and make time for yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes the feedback you get from some people, you don't know what their intentions are with that feedback, or if that's coming from a place of love, or if that's coming from a place of hatred. Like Miss Eden is saying, don't judge yourself by other people's accomplishments. Bless them and do your best. Yeah, and I agree with that. That's what I was saying earlier. But too often we do judge ourselves based on somebody else's success, thinking maybe that's um what we should be doing. But again, we have to be mindful of the feedback that we get from other people, because everyone does not mean us well. And if you're not grounded in who you are, if you
All
haven't
right, Miss
taken the
Eden
time to
said.
get to know yourself, huh? If you hadn't taken the
All right,
time to
Miss
get to
Eden
know
has
yourself,
said in one of her chats,
you
he was
said, Miss
talking
Eden,
about, and then you talk to a man who isn't attractive, but he shines through his personality. I can totally agree with that. I was gonna state that even when I was younger, I know I shouldn't have been focused or looking at whatever I was looking at. So I would say I would find this person not as attractive when I first started that class, but throughout the class, whatever that person did, maybe they're funny or she was funny or whatever. So I ended up finding this. So not only sometimes what we see at first might misjudge what we can see later on. So sometimes it takes time to see beauty within inside of a person.
right,
They don't have the muscles, or if they don't have the skinny body, you have to sometimes take time, like with you have to do within yourself, to see the beauty within.
okay. Well,
And I want to add one more thing. Sometimes we look at what other people have and we get jealous about something that we don't even know that we are capable of. It's like you didn't even try it, but you jealous because somebody else got it, but you didn't even try to see if you get it for yourself.
right.
And that's another thing, because that's what goes back to, you have to know
True.
yourself. But the only way to know yourself is to put yourself out there and just to give it a try.
So take a risk.
Take a risk.
Yeah.
Take yeah.
YOLO.
Yeah. Huh? So
I said
ladies,
YOLO. You only live once.
so it's 8:01. It's 8:01, so it's time for us to shut down. I want to thank so very much Miss Jones and Miss Eden for being part of the chat and keeping the conversation going with us. I will read this one last comment. When we build according to our values, we know what fits our life and what doesn't. Values are the key foundation. So again, just want to say that until to know whether or not you are good enough, you have to quieten the voices in your head. You have to erase all or block out all that those negative messages you got coming up. Take a step back and see what you're good at. And as Christina said, take a risk. Take a risk. Try something new. See if you can accomplish that. And so as you start to accomplish things, then you start to feel good enough because you know what you can do, as Megan was saying. And even playing around with your look, see for yourself what you like about how you look. Not what other people say, but what are you okay with? And the people that can't accept what you are okay with about yourself, those people might not need to be in your life. You might just need to step back and take a look at that. But we are running over time just a little bit. Again, I thank you guys so much for chatting with us. I thank Megan and Christina for sharing their thoughts and opinions with us, and everyone else that clicked on and viewed to take a look to see what we were talking about. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Please feel free to send me a message. If you have ideas about a topic or something you want to talk about that you want to discuss, I am open and willing to have that conversation with you. Again, thank you. Again, thank you, and have a good night.
Good night.